The Bible says that an uncertain man is unstable in all his ways. So BJ used to ask the question, who can anchor to an unanchored mind? Yes, we've all heard it. Who can unanchor to an unanchored mind? So who wants to be an anchored mind? Every single one of us, yes? So the old be, do, have, yes? Yes or yes? All right. I grew up a Pentecostal preacher's son. You got to work with me, okay? I feed off of it, all right? All right? Just put the Baptist on to the side for a minute.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, somebody. So, be, do, have, yes? So we have to be before we can do, before we can have, yes? Okay. New patients. The weekend's supposed to be about new patients, and I want to tell you something that new patients are attracted, that says, buy into certainty. So we have this, and this is all jumbled, but I'll read it to you. B.J. Palmer in 1951, he wrote volume 27 of the Green Book. A lot of people, oddly enough, have never even heard of it, and it's quite interesting to me because it's a fabulous read. As much as a Green Book can be a fabulous read, if you've read them, you know what I mean. Conflict brings about clarity. He called it conflicts clarify. Anybody read it? Anybody seen it? Conflicts clarify? Conflicts clarify. So here's the deal. We all want to be attractive, yes? Right? I want to be attractive to the people around me, to the people that I can lead and mentor, and I also want to be attractive to the people that could use me as their chiropractor. So conflicts clarify. So conflict brings about clarity, and clarity brings about certainty. Thank you. And certainty brings about attraction. So we can work it backwards. If you want to be attractive, you must have certainty. If you want to be certain, you must have clarity. If you want to be a person of clarity, then unfortunately, you have to embrace conflict. Is that fair enough? So let me tell you about a day of conflict for me. April 27, 2011. This was my practice. I graduated on March the 26th, 2010. March the 26th, 2010. 6 days prior, my wife had been an absolute warrior woman and had had our beautiful first son. My son Caleb was 6 days old at my graduation. My wife's in the back. And my son was there with us at graduation, 6 days old. Now, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. So we had dreams and hopes and goals and ambitions and a lot of stupidity mixed in with it, right? Lack of wisdom. So we started our own practice and we began, and this is what we came up with. We came up with Paxton Family Chiropractic. We rented one of the premier spots in our small little town. Ringgold proper has about 3,800 people, so very small, as you might would imagine, from that number. And we built this family practice. You can see the Mr. and Mrs. Taterhead right there on the table right there for the kids. So, you know, we wanted to be as family-oriented as we could be. And I built the practice, and we had worked our tails off, and we did everything we could to serve as many people as we could. And then fast forward, we're doing pretty well. We're paying the bills and we're helping some people, so we're doing pretty well. And then came April 27th, 2011. There was supposed to be some really bad weather in my area. I lived in a town about 12 miles outside of where I practiced, and 12 miles where I live is a long 12 miles, right? Don't think 75, right? Think dirt road, 12 miles, okay? 3,800 people, remember? So I was 12 miles away, and I was in my home. I went to practice one Wednesday morning, April the 27th, and I went to practice that morning, and throughout the morning, I only had about 10 or 12 people on the books because I was new in practice, maybe 15 or so. And by the time we went to lunch, about 4 of my 7 patients had said, I'm not coming. There's supposed to be really super bad weather. I'm not leaving. I'm going home. I'm going to, get ready for the bad weather, whatever. And so they all decided to cancel their appointments, much to my dismay and lamentation. And so they canceled their appointments. So we decided, since there might perhaps be some bad weather, even though I thought it was kind of a fluke. I mean, who listens to the weatherman, right? So we decided to close the afternoon. We closed the afternoon. We went home. I spent the afternoon playing with my son, who was about a year old at this point, who had just turned a little bit past a year old, and my wife, and we spent the afternoon together having a good time. Well, the weather got bad in my area around my home, and the reports that I was able to read and hear was saying that around my home, not around my practice, but around my home, there was to be some inclement weather, and there was supposed to be a tornado watches and warnings, and we went through the whole thing. I was in my bunker, right, my closet in my bedroom, right, and we had every pillow and mattress, and I was wearing a football helmet, right, and we had the dog in there and my son in there. You laugh, right? So unfortunately, that's the one picture I don't have is me in the bunker. I'll see if I can restage that for you. So we're in the bunker, right, and we've got everything in there, and we're waiting for, the roof to come off or whatever. But I can hear, like, my fence out back is, like, really, wobbling and banging and clanging. So I could tell that the weather had gotten quite bad. So I was thumbing through Facebook on my smartphone at the time, and somebody sent me a message on Facebook who lived in the town, who I knew, who was not a patient, but whom I knew. And she said to me, is your practice okay? And I wrote back and I said, my practice, what do you mean my practice? And about that time I got a call. My pastor's son, Noah, called me. And Noah is always a jokester. He's always, just that guy, right? Never takes anything serious, can't be serious, doesn't have that gene, right? Genetic omission for this guy. And so it's like Norm Colby. Is Norm in here? It's like Norm, right? Imagine Norm. Right? Imagine Norm Colby, right? But nowhere near as good looking. So Noah calls me and he says, for the first time in his life, the first time I've ever interacted with him like this, he has a serious tone. And he says, I'm sorry, man. And I said, sorry for what? He says, I just drove past your office. I said, yes, so? He says, well, the whole town is gone. So I left my wife. I got in the car. I said, sweetie, I got to go. I got to check this out. And I went to the town, drove into the town the 12 miles. I stopped about 3 miles from the office because traffic was backed up. They weren't letting anyone in. I parked in the Food Line parking lot, the Ingles parking lot, the grocery store, where I found out that they had cleared out the freezer because they were using the freezer, as a freezer for dead bodies, right? I mean, in case there were casualties, which there were. And so I got up and I got out of the car and I found a police officer and I said, sir, I don't mean to be a bother. I know it's scene control, I understand, but I have an office that's about 1.25 miles or so up the way right there. I need to get in and see if I can get at least my server with my patient files. That's protected information. I was just coming up with any excuse I could to let me in. And he says, sir, you're going to have to walk. They're down power lines, there's water everywhere, there's sparks flying. Watch out for the wires, and you're going to have to walk. So I walked up. I got up there and got to the front of the building, my office. Imagine this is about 11 o'clock at night. So the pictures I have are the next day, so they are lighted. But imagine seeing this in the dark. And I got up to the office, and you can see here that that's my sign for my office right there. So as such, this is the office there that you saw a few pictures ago. And this is the building in the shape in which I found it. And so I actually was greeted in the parking lot with a flashlight in my face and a Glock 40 because there was a pharmacy not too far away in the next building over, and people were looting it for narcotics and opiates. And I explained to him that I was, in fact, not looking for that stuff. Should have given him a lay lecture, but I was a little, little bit, disturbed at the moment, right, confused. And so I went on and I found the office. I walked up to the office and I opened the door and I found this. I walked up to the front door and I found this. So you can imagine the emotion that's surging through me at the moment. I walked in and I found this. This is actually roof material that you see here, very, very, very sharp. The sprinklers were going. There was about 1.5 feet of water standing on the ground in the office, and this is the shape in which I found it. I walked down through this hallway here, right through here, looking at all the devastation, and something happened, and I don't know if I'll be able to relay it to you with quite the gravity that it affected me, but something happened. I got to about this corner right here, this where you can see this wall, and I had 2 adjusting rooms right there. And when I got around the corner and I saw these adjusting rooms, I looked up, and something happened that almost crushed me. Because I looked up, and I had all my diplomas on the wall. and my big, fancy, beautiful, gorgeous chiropractic school diploma that my parents had paid to have as a graduation present, had paid to have, masterfully crafted into framing, was cracked, was broken, was soaking wet, was dripping with water. And that almost broke me because that had a lot to do with what I stood for and what I'd worked so diligently for. So I turned the corner and I saw this table. This table means a lot to me because this table is the table that my dad gave to me as a gift to begin my practice on. So all my first adjustments were given on this table that's absolutely precious to me. And as you can see, it's now very ripped. It was floating in water, and it has debris all in it and all over it. So the table is ruined. So I get home and I told my wife, I walked in, I told her, and she said, what do we do? And I said, sweetheart, I just don't know. I just don't know. I know that God's not a cruel God, so I know this is not a cruel joke, but I don't know what to do. So we tried to sleep through the night. Yeah, right, that's a joke, right? And we went the next morning. You can see me here trying to clean up debris. Interesting part of it, do you see the people here, the very, very, very small people here? Those were the patients that showed up to help me. Most of them with bad backs, right? You can imagine. Really a truly remarkable experience for me. You can see the devastation. You can see the sunlight coming through the roof. All the water had dissipated, at least. And so I crawling over the debris and wondering what on earth should I do, I did the only thing I could think to do. I called my dad. And he's always been a source of strength for me and always been a rock and always been someone very special in my life. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, what should I do? And he said, son, God's always had his hand on you. He's always had his favor in your life. You're going to be fine. We're going to get through this. The first thing we have to do in the morning after we get all this stuff out, we have to find you a temporary place to practice. I hated him in that moment. And I was so angry. So angry with him. Because this moment was about me and what I lost. Because I lost everything except for my family. And I got off the phone and my wife was sitting next to me. And she says, what did your dad say? What does he say you should do? I said, he said I should immediately find a temporary place to practice and that I should get back to work and serve the people because they're going to be hurting too and they need me. And she said, I couldn't agree more. And I said, why are you on his side? Thank goodness she's still around. So I did. I took Thursday and Friday off to clean up what I could. I got a temporary office. We started on Monday morning seeing patients. And here's why I'm up here telling you this story. I want to encourage you to not resent the struggle. And I want to take the next 7 minutes and explain why I want to encourage you. Please, I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, please don't resent your struggle. This was a message from God to me, from the universe to me, however you want to phrase it. Can everybody read it? See the possibilities. One of the only framings in the office that didn't get ripped off the wall. Right? Didn't even get tilted, didn't even get misaligned. Coincidence? No, sir. No, ma'am. Absolutely not. I want to encourage you to not resent the struggle. Because it's in the struggle where the magic happens. Because if you will choose to not resent the struggle and see what you can gain from it, magical things can happen. You can go from this 1,600 square feet with a $20,000 build out with one employee at 50 patients a week to this 2,500 square feet with a $125,000 build out with 5 employees and over 200 patient visits a week. The interesting thing about how you can get here is that I called my insurance agent the very next morning after the tornado, and I said, Tyler, where do we go from here? What do we do? You know, I need to come there. You need to come. What do we do? And he says, I got some bad news. And I said, what do you mean bad news? He says, one of your policies was still in underwriting of the 5 policies that you had, and it was all under an umbrella, so unfortunately that negates the entire policy. I said, what does that mean? I'm not an insurance guy. He says, that means I have nothing for you. No money, no benefits, no nothing. So chiropractors went all over the nation, literally all over the nation, heard about this and went to work on my behalf. And it was an amazing outstretch of love and not being an island finally. So I began to get donations all over the nation of brand new equipment, used equipment, old equipment, money. Dr. Rubin and Dr. Rubin, they put a fishbowl up at their office, took up donations, took a donation in their class and sent it to me. And my wife would tell you that when people were doing this, it was always, correct me if I'm right, honey, it was always down to the penny. Exactly what we needed to get through. These are 2 of my boys standing in my new office. And if you knew him, you would appreciate that picture. I'm just glad he was wearing a diaper. So now you can come in, you can get state of the art. You can get any of the best things that we have to offer. Anybody recognize the table? Had the table refurbished, I've still got it. 500 MA digital x-ray, just as strong as what they have at our local imaging center and hospital. No insurance. No insurance. When the storm hit, I had about $3,000 to my name in every account that I had. Impulse IQs, the expensive ones, 2 brand new, gorgeous, absolutely what I always dreamed I would have, Omni, high-low tables. Don't dare resent your struggle. Because this is how it works whether you like it or not. Viktor Frankl, anybody? Viktor Frankl said this. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in this space lies our ability to choose a response. And it's in our response that lies our growth and our freedom. Don't dare, don't you dare resent your struggle. Thank you very much.